What's a lie you've told that has gotten ridiculously out of hand? On my first day at work, someone offered to make me a cup of coffee and they asked if it was how I liked it. I responded perfect, thanks, which is considered to be typical British behavior. However, this was in fact not the perfect cup of coffee, not a perfect cup of coffee at all. Now I don't have the guts to turn to Steve and degrade his coffee making skills, and instead I have to suffer the consequences every single day and drink his rather shitty coffee. It's been over a year and I'm still living this lie. I don't know how much longer I can cope with this. Fuck you, Steve. Work with a woman for the past 4 years. Every day says hi Owen and asks about my day. It's not my name or even close to my name and I just never corrected her, and now it's too late. I work with a woman who calls me brother Josh and bows to me in a Japanese style bow every time she sees me, under the assumption that I'm Asian and religious. My name is not Josh. I have as close to 0% Asian ancestry as possible, and I'm an atheist. I have no idea how she picked up any of these assumptions. Not me, but my cousin. Aged 13, she created a fictional boyfriend, but being a teenager with social media, it wasn't as easy as just saying he existed. What followed was 8 months of a Romeo and Juliet style romance with disapproving parents, fake accounts and bad Photoshop. This ultimately ended in a dramatic turn of events when Luke, the imaginary boyfriend, tragically passed away of an undisclosed condition, never to be spoken of again. She came clean after receiving a sympathy card from her friend's parents. Told my boss I'm Jewish, so I can have weekends off. I now eat kosher at work and can't order takeout. When I was about 16, I had a friend whose dad had a flat in London. One weekend a group of us stayed there and went out on a Saturday night and ended up in her brother's university's student union bar. The university was music focused. Because we were underage and drunk, when talking to people we would lie about being uni students and which course we were on. I got talking to a guy, and when he asked me what I was studying, I told him what I had been telling everyone else all night: violin. The guy says, me too. Which tutor do you have? Fuck. I say, oh, you know, the top level one. Clearly lying. He says, that's weird. I'm in the highest level group and I haven't seen you before. I then proceed to tell him how I'm in a secret group that is even higher that not everyone knows about. He clearly doesn't believe me and pulls his friend over who also studies violin. That I was American. I didn't outright say it, but when I first came I was hanging out with people and I didn't feel like it was necessary to mention that I came from Canada. It led to me not knowing some American culture and making me look dumb half the time cause I didn't know someone/some reference. Not me, but I had a classmate in high school tell a teacher his mom texted him that his dad died just to get out of a test. Boy, did that blow up in his face. I accidentally did something similar at work once. I saw my cousins posting on Facebook about their grandmother passing away. I thought it was the grandmother we had in common, since she'd been frail for a while. So I was rather upset about this and got the rest of the day off work. It was a bit embarrassing when I went back to work the next day and had to admit that it was actually their other grandmother who wasn't related to me at all. A friend in middle school pretended to be colorblind. Carried the light clean through high school. Pretty impressive dedication, really. Hey, back in middle school I did a white lie once that I was colorblind to make up for some color mistake and be different. I ended up using that line again and again to family and stuff. Friends and family started saying you're colorblind. You wouldn't know when I would state my opinion on colors, which got annoying. But actually turned out my senior year of high school I actually am colorblind. The one with reds and green, or whatever. I guess fake it till you make it right. Not me, but a server buddy of mine told me a story once about how he took the first table of the night in a super thick southern accent. He was in theater, so it was actually really convincing. The only problem is the people at the next table overheard him, and he had to serve them next. Long story short, this kept up, and he had to talk to every single table over an 8-hour shift in a southern accent. Someone else said they were related to me as a joke around 2004 and unbeknownst to me continued to say that. So for years I've had people ask me about my brother Josh, even though I actually haven't seen him in very long time. I usually just ad-lib a general response rather than making him feel silly, but I'm pretty over it. When I met my college friends at 17, I told them that my first kiss was at 15 in order to hide my embarrassment at never having kissed anyone. One time they asked for the story, so I quickly made up something about a random guy I used to work with who I made out with at a party. Although this wasn't my intent, I guess something about the way I told the story made my friends, who to be fair were pretty sheltered people at the time, think I was fairly promiscuous. From this, they gathered that I spent my time during the summers frequently hooking up with strangers. I ended becoming close friends with these girls, but unfortunately due to this, they all thought of me as the slutty one of our group for a couple years, until they finally realized they'd only seen me date a handful of people. I took a co-worker's Hot Pocket from the work refrigerator. I was 19. When he flipped and looked for the thief, I lied and said I was a vegetarian. I remained a vegetarian for 3 years to cover the lie. Not as bad, but after I found some foreign souvenirs of mine out of place, I told my nephew I have a camera in my room so that he'll stay out of it. He keeps asking about it, so I continuously have to add to it. So there's a camera in my room that I can spy through on my phone and alerts me anytime he comes in. Said camera is so tiny, no one can see it, and is placed in a convenient nail in my wall. I politely pretended to remember my dentist when she said she'd known me and my family as a child. Kept up with it for several sessions, and then she asks about family members I don't have, and I realize she's got the wrong person. But because I've pretended I know her, I've had to keep it up. It's been 6 years, and I'm too awkward to admit to it or find a new dentist at this point. I smoked in high school, and for 15 years after that, we used to walk down to the shop, which was around 500 meters from school, and sit outside and smoke because the shopkeeper didn't mind. So I'm down there one day and nothing unusual happens, and then that afternoon I walk from school to my great grandmother's place, who lived about another k or so from the school in the other direction. She was old, frail, and the most amazing person ever. Anyway, she had gone past the shops in a taxi that day and saw me smoking. She brought it up about having smokes in my pocket. I did, and I said no, she was mistaken, etc. A few weeks later my mum says Grandma Nanny saw you smoking, and you lied to her. I said she did say that, but it wasn't true. She must have seen someone else. One thing lead to another, and before I know it the family has decided Grandma has lost her marbles, and within a month the house was cleaned out and she was moved into a home. Fast forward a couple of years, and she has genuinely lost her memory. Dementia is a cunt. I never got a chance to tell her the truth, because by the time I had grown up and decided she was mostly gone, I think about it regularly. That I didn't plagiarize on an essay. So I wanted to transfer to this high school sophomore year. That seemed super dope, but to get in I had to write an essay. I plagiarized part of it cause I was a dumbass, and they found out. During the last meeting, literally once I talked to them, I was in the school, I talked to a counselor, and he was like, hey, you plagiarized TF. So I told him I didn't, and he didn't believe me. So the meeting continued, and at one point my dad went to write something down, and the counselor snapped at him and told him to pay attention, and was just kinda a dick. After the meeting, my dad told me he was about to walk out of their cause of how rude the counselor was. I told my dad that I actually didn't plagiarize, that he believed me. My dad and I agreed that counselor was full of bullshit, and I ended up not going to that school. Learned my lesson though. In junior school I lied that I had a bionic foot. Surprisingly, this went on for a very long time. The way I kept it real was for sport. I would always get changed separate from everyone, and I would avoid swimming carnivals. Eventually I forgot about the lie, and I got changed with everyone else in the change rooms for school, and they somehow remembered it. Let's just say I got attacked literally the whole day. Fun days. When I was 7 to 8 I grabbed a naked wire at a wedding and got electrocuted. I'm 19 now and still the scar remains on my hand. I straight showed my parents about my hand cause it looked cool. They cried and asked me what happened. I said a kid pushed me. My cousin was like super pissed and was like, was it that kid? I mumbled yeah. Apparently, he went to hit the kid. I still feel like shit about it.